misunderstood the this will be here. free to just chime in. I'd like to point your attention to page 4 of the packet. So as everyone remembers, this is fall off from the CDO listening sessions. We had CDO map public feedback given along the way. So this is a way that we're able to look at specific properties that have been requested to rezone under the draft zone map. And so what I'm looking for from the ordinance review committee, if appropriate, is either a vote to go ahead and have staff change that zone to either what's been requested or keep it what staff is requested to remain as in line with the comprehensive plan, or back to the plan commission for more discussion. So that's how I think is the best way to kind of go through some of these properties that people have either expressed dissatisfaction or even satisfaction of their zone. I think we just want to be transparent in what we're changing in the draft zoning map and make sure that it's in line with what the plan commission sees as fitting. Okay. Any questions before I go forward?
Jackie, it's very hard to hear you. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's very hard to hear you.
Okay, let me pull
that's
that.
much better. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Okay. All right. Let me know if you can't hear. That's helpful information. Okay, so we will go on to page 5 of the packet, which is also on the screen. So the first property that we have under the table for your consideration. Oh, yeah. Is 848 West That Road. And as we go through this, if there's any information that you think would be helpful to have in this type of table of information, we have over 140 of these requests that we'll need to go through. So the sooner we can get a template that works for everyone with information you need in a concise way, the better. So the first property, like I mentioned, is 848 West That Road. I can pull it up on Elevate. They are currently zoned medium density residential under the draft zoning map, which is drafted as a 0.21 acre lot size. The existing zone is a state residential 1. The existing acreage is 5.75 acres. It's a vacant parcel, and the comp plan has it as mixed residential. And the score that was given for this was extremely dissatisfied or strongly dissatisfied. And the last column is whether the owner filled out the request, and that is no. So I can pull up any information that you might need to.
I think my question, and maybe something we need to figure out how to add to the table, is why are they dissatisfied? Do they want higher density, lower density, commercial instead of residential, right? If that can be added to the table.
Yes.
And I would like to see, for instance, for these 2 examples, is it an instance where these are pre-existing non-conforming? So, I mean, are these historical, problems that go back to the very beginning of the property? Or is it something that that is new because of just our zoning changes?
Right.
Yeah.
Like in the 1997 maps, or do you mean even before that, like the history of the property itself?
Well, maybe the history of how long is it? Has it been pre-existing non-conforming for a long time? Is it that it was just built that way and it doesn't fit with the zone, so to speak?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a way to put together something really simple, like arrow up to increase zoning, arrow down to decrease it, change to commercial, change to residential. Might be an easy way to add like a tiny note in the main column of that initial chart.
Right.
But I'm not sure what this note means on here. When I read through it, it seems to say does not support medium residential. or doesn't want it to change from the current zoning. And I saw,
Yeah, so the comment that we received in the packet was that it was, I believe this was a request, that I don't think actually, did it go all the way through? I think that there was some issues with the sinkhole on the property, but.
Sinkhole issues, but I don't remember why. It was a preliminary plat that
Yeah.
was,
So this was a property that I think has had some history in the planning office in terms of rezone for Baywood. And so
Mhm.
the proposed zoning here is MR, and there's concern that that's high, too high of density for this area.
okay,
And so the comprehensive plan for this area has it as. Drainage area, this is, mixed residential. So that's why the recommendation is MR. And then it is in a critical drainage area for West Fork Clear Creek. And then this is the buildable area map for that property. Just as like a high level view.
So I did Baywood years ago. What's the density on Baywood? Are those about, because that was a city zone that there was a PUD in the city at one time. It was ERW, Dave Rose did it.
Yeah, these are paired patio homes,
Right.
so they're about,
2 tenths.
yeah,
So that
about
density is a
maybe
continuation. Okay.
right. Thoughts on this one in particular?
On this one, no, but I am, I'm seeing the existing zone as estate residential.
Yes.
And I'm recalling a gentleman who came before us, and he made a compelling argument that label,
Yes,
estate residential, should be maintained, that they feel that it reflects the investment in their property.
mhm,
And that I thought, well, that may be, that he had an objection to it going to,
suburban density,
yes,
okay.
yes.
Yes,
What's the house down there? What are the two properties? Because Ellington owns to the east.
yes.
That's the old horse place.
Mhm. And this is an existing home on the property.
Right. What's the one? Okay. So what's the one to the right then? Is there one? Yeah.
What's the
What's the,
acreage?
yeah, what's the acreage?
0.25.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, it seems to me there should be a transition if we're gonna, I think 1 acre lot size there. Because all the all the sewer, all the water, that road is. It's in place. And I know that there was discussion with the planning commission for that previous petition. Were largely because of the parsonage side. But I think that there was design that met the ordinance that went around that. Or Julie, can you hear okay?
yes, I can, thank you.
Oh, okay. So I think ER1 is, or RE1 is. I don't think that's dense enough for what's in the area and what we've got north of it, what we've got over to the west. And it's just my thought. Maybe MR is a little bit too dense. But that's a site design issue more than anything else. I think where it's placed, to me, density similar to Baywood's probably reasonable.
I think my concerns are similar, but if you look at how close those two floodways are, to me, that's a telltale sign that we should not have a really high density in here at all. I do worry that that's going to shift even more as city continues to develop their properties nearby, that this could become quite a mess stormwater wise. And I think to answer these questions, I would want to talk to Kelsey Thatonia about them a bit, about where this could possibly go. flood wise.
Are you talking elevation, Judy, or Julie, or are you talking water quality?
I'm
Is
just talking
elevation-
about, I think my concern is just that these two floodways are so close by to this property and to a lot of the properties we're talking about. We already have stormwater issues in this area, and the elevation is an issue for each property, but in this case, it's just the proximity and the fact that we know city developments are going to continue to impact this.
And that's why I was asking, because we're 20 feet above the flood
Yeah,
zone according to the contour, so even in a basement, you're 12 feet, so that wouldn't get above the freeboard on the
right.
on the floodway, and that's an AE zone, so that's been mapped. I mean, that's
But
not
there's some slopes here too, and I'm not sure how they all work together. Because the other property's already in place. It's a bit of a puzzle for me. I just feel like these floodways are expanding, not contracting, and so the proximity of these two make me think lower density is better.
Bernie, your
I just don't think
thoughts are maybe higher, or
yeah, I think a higher density and not discounting what we're discussing here, but the floodway is not gonna creep 20 vertical feet. If it does, we're all underwater, we're paddling. And 20 vertical feet on a floodway is huge. And we've already got the density here. So, and the site design is gonna take into account what the design parameters are with the karst and other features. Stormwater quality, basins, whatever it takes to get whatever desired density. Those are my only thoughts with it.
okay, and then Margaret, what were your thoughts on this property?
On this, my thoughts go in line with Julie's as far as the area. And how, maybe it's because permeable surfaces in the city have been so, and in the surrounding area have been so reduced. But it seems as though flooding has been exacerbated, and it has me concerned in terms of doing something that would encourage people to put their property and treasure, and in terms of an investment into an area where it could be destroyed, because people don't know as much as we know. And if it's open for sales, they assume we've done our due diligence. And I'd just like to be sure we have, that if
And that's a good point with if we look at, because the reduction of pervious or permeable surfaces has to do directly with what the rate of runoff would be from a parking lot versus a field, right? So, I mean, there's a hydrologic, it's not even a theory, it's an evaluation where when you've got properties that are up against a floodway, sometimes it's better to let that water get out of there, and it's called beat the peak. So what you have is the water that's spiking, that's coming down, and it's rolling its boat, and it's going down the stream, and it's chugging along with all the properties that have drained into it upstream, right? So you want to detain water at such a rate from this property that the peak off this property matches the peak that's coming down the stream or the creek or the channel, whatever the primary drainage structure, natural drainage structure is. And sometimes you want to get it out ahead of it and let it go downstream, so you don't add to that peak that's coming down with the rest of the city of Bloomington down to it. And you only look at that at the lower ends of the drainage ways. You don't look at it at the upper ends because you don't have that much of an impact. But again, I don't see that we would increase anything on this floodway for this, what is that, probably 16-acre parcel, I can't remember.
It's actually, it's 5.75.
Oh, 5.7, okay.
Yeah,
So it's a 6-acre parcel, you're not gonna do, and physically, unless you built the channel, nobody on that parcel is gonna be building anything that's gonna encroach on those floodway elevations.
Mhm.
That's just my opinion.
no, I see what you're saying about the slopes and this and the numbers, but I think my other concern here too is we know that road is at capacity. And it's part of it for me is I wouldn't want to go below the 1 acre lot sizes because of access to that road. And if Baywood Drive continues south to that road, it looks like they built it for that. Then that's also going to add to the traffic on that road, which is not ideal, but can't really do much about it.
Yeah, and those stubs are required based on what the transportation.
Well, I know, I know, but we don't know what the developer is gonna do on that property that we're talking about.
Well, they would connect to that stub to the north. And then the design parameters would tell them, I would think, to connect to that road, or county can say, probably, we don't want to stub down to that road, we just want to come off Baywood Drive and have all the traffic have one outlet, which is contrary to what we typically do. What's going on to the west with the bridge? Is it the bridge on that road that they're building, or is it north?
Gordon.
It's Gordon, okay, never mind.
Yeah. that's what
Yeah.
you're thinking here.
Mhm.
So I just wanna do a quick summary here. So Bertie, you mentioned higher density. Margaret, you said stay lower density. Julie, you said stay lower density. So would we like to take this forward as a recommendation to change the map to lower density? Do you want this to go to the plan commission? How do you want to proceed with this?
What's the density on medium density, MR again?
0.21.
It is 0.2. Do we have anything between MR and 1?
Yes.
LRE1?
Yes, we have low density, which would be 0.34. RC1 would be 1 acre, suburban density would be 1 acre, so we don't really have anything between 0.34 and 1.
And the previous petition was for HR zoning, and that was withdrawn back in 2019.
Thanks for that. So do we wanna see this change zoning? Do you wanna see this go to the plan commission? How would you like staff to proceed on this one?
I mean, somebody make a motion, I guess. I mean, you're probably wanting to do as much here as possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
144 properties.
Yeah, I mean, as much as
So I-
you, I mean, and if it's worthy of larger discussion, let's do it, but if you want to be, you know.
For a 6-acre parcel, I think we just, somebody else besides me make a motion. And we just move through, it's my opinion.
I don't think I can vote because I've been to these as virtual almost all the time, so I don't know that voting is the right answer, honestly. I think we could just try to come to a consensus if we can, if possible.
I think because we have a 4-person board here, like you would, in this case, I mean, you have to have a 3-0.
Oh.
So it does either need to be all or nothing, I think. Yeah, if you're gonna do it that way.
If we wanna do it that way, or we could just do a consensus and if that's preferable, or if you want us to go ahead and go through these and then the ORC make formal recommendations and then we just give that information to the plan commission for full transparency. And if anyone on the plan commission wishes to reopen the discussion, they could, but we're just trying to be efficient with our time.
Yeah, I also wonder if it's possible to package these all together as one rather than individual parcels and just make a decision, take it to the consultants, have them incorporate it, and then we can talk about it. We can raise it at plan commission when we review the whole thing. I just don't, I just don't know that each thing needs to go through plan commission. I get why that's important, but given that there are so many, I think this would be a really long process.
My guess is if we went with low density residential at 0.34, minimum lot size, you probably wouldn't have an average of 0.34. It would probably be higher than that by the time you put in all the design constraints. So I think the developable density would probably be somewhere between 0.7 and 0.8. So I think we're probably on this property closer than what we think we are. But I think I would like to see at least have the opportunity to have a little bit higher density and let the site constraints dictate what happens there. Because I think they're going to dictate what happens there more than just a flat density and pie cut them into whatever parcels can be because of the density. That's my thought.
Personally, I'd like to see it remain estate residential, you know, at 1 acre.
I would as well.
And we are getting rid of the zone RE1 and it's
Right.
being consolidated into suburban density. I know Margaret, you
Is that
mentioned.
done? I mean, or is that?
No, everything is a draft.
Well, I'd like to see it be RE1. I think that the concatenating of the zones takes away some of the nuance that we need for our community. And that we need to maybe keep RE1 because it has a different connotation than suburban residential. You know, estate residential means something different
Yes.
than suburban residential does.
So are you thinking just change the title of this 1 acre lot size?
Well, keep it at estate resident, RE1.
So you're saying change the name of the suburban density, which is a 1 acre lot size, and just change the name back to RE1 residential.
Right, I mean, the suburban residential isn't on my sheet. So that's, right now, your proposed is medium density. But it's.
That's the
existing-
draft. So that's
Yes.
what the draft zoning is.
Yes.
But there's the choices that we kind of have
Yes.
going forward. One of those choices is SD, which is a 1 acre lot size zoning,
Yes,
suburban.
And I'd be
density.
fine with that.
okay,
Say that again. What would you just say? I'm sorry.
She was just saying suburban density is one of the options for.
for this area, yes, but I don't think we should eliminate that zone, RE1. I think it means something different than suburban density. It's not just a measurement of the
Well,
lot size.
Are you thinking it's gonna,
That's it.
are you
Sentence.
thinking that it would have different design
acre.
standards or different use types than the suburban density?
It's,
Should we maybe pull the 2-pager just to
I mean,
sort
with
of?
all that density right above it, you can see, that's, you know, I mean, that's a lot of density. And so,
I don't know if it's helpful to review the use or the 2-pager for what suburban density is.
I mean,
Yeah.
some
Because it-
people claim that took away property value for them, just the title change.
It seems like a big gap between 0.34 and 1 unit per acre. And that's a factor of 3.
Mhm.
I know
We
the
don't
goal is,
currently have anything in that.
right,
Margaret, I kind of want to have that discussion maybe with you
Okay.
after the fact, because I want to get through the ORC,
That's
because I
fine.
think maybe we have.
Julie, do you think that there should be a density calculate or? And not, just like Margaret said, she's 110% correct, it's just not all density, right?
Right.
But do you think there should be a residential density somewhere between 0.34 with the low density that staff brought up and the RE1, which is 1 acre, the SD, which is 1 acre? Cause that's a 3-to-1 gap.
It is,
That's-
it is,
that's
and I
pretty
don't even
broad.
really, it really seems to me like. I think, you know, I've said this before, so I'm sorry, I'm repetitive, but. When we look at the. Densities, it seems like we could put that density into the title rather than having. All of these different names. It's residential 1, residential 0.5, residential 0.34. Residential 2.5. I mean, it just seems like giving it suburban, urban, whatever is causing an issue, and it makes things, I think, more complicated and implies a meaning that isn't there. But I do know that I understand that there are different potential uses of the land based on that density as well. I do understand that. I'm just saying that these are, it's people don't think like we do. People think like, can I build a house here, and how many houses can I put on this acreage? You know, I think most people think of it that way, and that's how I'm trying to bend to that a little bit.
So I think the gap between 0.34 and 1 acre is probably due to the break in sewer versus septic. We've had a lot of consideration for those properties that are 1 acre in size, for them to be further out in the rural areas. You really won't find LR, MR, HR, UR without sewer.
Right.
So if we still need an acre for a septic system, then that's probably the justification. And I do want to say, if we include the acreage in all the lot naming, people will come to us and say, well, I can subdivide because I have 2 acres, and if it's SR1, that might cause some confusion.
Yeah, that's true. I get that. I'm just responding to what people have said to me is, it's so complex the way we have it now, because we use terms like estate or suburban, and
Maybe it's not that layout.
conservation. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything, right? Conservation doesn't mean anything versus estate and whatever. So any way we can clarify it, I think would be good. And it, if the number means that's the minimum lot size, then it doesn't mean you can't have a larger lot.
Can I ask Tammy a question? Because I think this was her comment, right? Was this yours? You didn't want MR because it was too dense, which is at 0.21 an acre. Or do you suggest that it would be an RE1 at one unit per acre?
So-
1 unit per acre.
So I did make comments on a lot of properties in this area because I grew up in this area, I'm very familiar with it, and I've been through petitions over the last couple of years, so I've seen some things come and go. And my comment here was basically because when I saw that one kind of come and go, it seemed like it was not being considered for medium density because that density seemed too high. That was just an observation that I made about that particular property, and so made that suggestion. I would also say that during that time frame when these were put out, there wasn't really a definition yet for medium density MD. So, a written definition, which I'm still not 100% familiar with what MD stands for. Does that include a mixed use, or does that just mean medium density residential? So that's where
Okay.
that helps.
I-
Because
since
I
you
did
made the
make that
comment,
comment on
yeah.
a couple of them that were similar comments, just an observation.
So again, my question was, one of my questions was between 0.34 and between 1 acre, do we need to think about something in between
We could,
to get it closer
yeah.
to? I mean, that's a 3-to-1, rough numbers, that's a 3-to-1 difference in density. And if somebody, our ordinance wouldn't necessarily allow it, but we've got a lot of infrastructure in there that we can leverage. It's been invested in, whether it's the cities or not. To me, it just seems that the site conditions are gonna take care of the ultimate density. But in this area, we should probably try to put a density that matches what we see closely around it. And it can stair step down from the 0.21 and increase to a higher density. It's only 6 acres. That's what I keep going back to when I run the numbers. It's not a 20-acre parcel. It's 5.75. You're gonna lose 3/10 in right of way.
Yeah.
And you're gonna lose another I'm just throwing numbers out there, but you're probably losing another 2 acres in karst.
Plus fire retention.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not gonna have a density of 0.21 and, but at least they may be able to design something that's gonna leverage what infrastructure we've got out there the best we can. But it's 6 acres, so we're not gonna reverse the rotation of the earth either way.
So it sounds like, I just wanna make sure, for this one, it sounds like. There's a question of whether you could have like a half acre lot size, is that something that you would be seen as amenable for this lot in particular?
Yes.
Okay. And that would be a new zone, not
I
amendment of an
agree with
existing
him
zone?
that this is such a jump, you know, like if it could be 0.25, 0.5, and 0.75,
Okay.
you know, and then 1, it just seems to me like that is a big jump between, and I do understand the difference between being near infrastructure and having to have a septic system, you know, so.
Right.
But being near the infrastructure could also mean that we give people an opportunity to have a single family home, you know, rather than just patio townhomes and things like, I mean, we haven't built many of the single family homes lately.
I mean, there's a reason why we've got 0.3, even in the old ordinance, why we've got a jump from 0.34 all the way up to 1.
Right.
Is there a planning philosophy that says that spot between 0.35 and 0.1, you don't really want to have an intermediate density in there that you know of? I mean, is that
I think it's just a difference of how you wanna utilize land that's either access to sewer or septic.
Mm.
And I think that you, again, won't find anything that's 0.34 or smaller on a septic system, so. I mean, my question would be if we added a 0.5 or 0.75 acre minimum lot size, do you think those lots would still have access to sewer or not?
I would say we would.
Well, it would be, if they're by Baywood, they would.
I mean, I think even if they did 1 unit per acre, don't they have to put them on sewer? In that location?
In that location, yeah.
Yeah, so to put in sewer infrastructure to serve those lots.
Yeah.
Plus the roadway cost is gonna be the same.
Right.
The sewer cost is gonna be the same.
Mhm.
Your laterals, you're gonna have laterals and things that are gonna serve, the homes will increase because you have more homes.
Right.
Right, but the trunk line is gonna be the same investment. So, you know, you gotta be able to afford. They've gotta be able to have the density in order to afford the infrastructure.
Right.
I guess is what I'm maybe suggesting. What do you think, Tam?
I think I agree with you about sometimes if you're gonna have to put in all that infrastructure, it does require sort of I'm not a developer, I'm not
Right, I'm just looking at the
that
cost.
adept, but like,
I'm just
yeah, I
looking
mean,
at
I
the
can
cost.
see there being that kind of tipping point with the cost benefit.
And,
Sure.
you know, and that,
Awesome.
you know, and that is very practical, and I hear it and it makes sense, but at the same time, I don't think that's our job to figure out what a developer needs. I think a developer needs to look at a property they're looking to purchase and, you know, come to us with a petition, and a rezone might be part of that. And I feel like we have to look at, we've got a road that's limited in size. We've got a really bad intersection at that and Rogers. You know, there are already, you know, there are 2 floodways to the east and the west. You know, our job isn't to maximize properties for developers to make money. That's not our job. Our job is to figure out the best and highest use of the property. And the best use of this property is what? And that's what we need to go with. And if a developer looks at it and says, yeah, but I need to put in 3 more houses in order to make this work, they should come to us with a petition and then we'll look at it. I just feel like second guessing what a developer wants isn't necessarily the best thing for us to be doing at this moment.
And again, we agree 100 and probably 99%. Julie, my only point with the comment on what that return would be is if we zone this something that it's gonna make it difficult for anybody to come in here and do anything with that property. And maybe the ultimate would be that it just was left vacant. Or we're battling rezones with people trying to come in with the rezone on trying to make it worthwhile to them to do something with it. So.
Or
I
maybe
agree.
somebody wants to take this and make 3 lots out of it.
Could be.
And it's 1 driveway and 3 lots, and there's no infrastructure for sewer. And it's simple. You know, it could be that that's what they want to do with it.
Would we let them be on there with 3 lots and not hook into the sewer?
Sure.
We would? Does that match our ordinance now? I'm asking the question.
You need at least 10 acres.
We would need 30.
So they-
Oh yeah, it's not enough acreage. Yep, it's not big enough.
That's where and that's all I'm going with. I'm not trying to make money or pick winners and losers. That's not my goal. My goal is to look at something that's practical and try to interpret a little bit on what somebody's gonna have to do to turn it around. Or it could just stay vacant. And
Well,
maybe that's what it would be.
Building techniques change and then so do the margins and this will be in effect for a decade or so. It's not like they have to come in tomorrow and build it. I mean, that's what we saw in Bloomington. And why everybody's living in a town they don't remember anymore. It's because they liberated the land for really high super density and it's by right. And they came in and they maximized the building. And you know, when we talk about highest and best use, I don't always think that that's development, you know? I think some green space, I think big yard, what are those homes, zoned to the left off of Eagle View? I mean, how many acres are those? I mean, the question is, does it fit in more with Eagle View Drive? Or does it fit in more with, Baywood?
I think some of those are half acres.
So if it's a half acre in Eagle View, I'd say half.
Can we read it? Did it say it on the, we ran a selection?
That's a Kevin Potter flat.
Ah,
He did, I love his hand-drawn flats. I love them.
And just,
It depends on which section.
Yeah, that's really small, but I think that's a great point, Margaret.
They're almost an acre,
Okay.
37,000.
So he had an acre.
Square feet.
Yeah, so the question is,
Well, it's 3/4 of an acre, sorry.
yeah, so what is the vision? Does it fit in more with Eagle View Drive or with Baywood? And it seems like we have so much density down there now. That's
Point 4, point 3, that's what, 0.5.
that's the most important question.
Yeah.
Is, you know, do we want it to be like all the other high density that we've just permitted? Or do we want it to be more like, do we want space for residents who have a little higher income and would like, you know, would we like to build our tax base in Bloomington? Or do we just want people living in paired patio townhomes? It's up to you, you know, it's up to us in some ways.
So those lots to the west, there were a couple larger ones, but most of them were 0.3 to 0.7. Is that fair?
0.7 to 1, I think. 0.7.
It depends on where you're looking.
It might have been
Here, up
somewhere
here,
Yeah.
and up, down here.
looks like a range of
Yeah.
0.3 to almost 1. Yeah, quite a range.
So, yeah, and
I'd just say.
this is a
plan
hard,
commission,
this is a hard discussion because I know typically we would give each one of these properties individual attention. It would go to the full plan commission. I understand what we're asking you all to do is to help make things a little bit more efficient, but if this isn't appropriate and you want staff to take, I mean, essentially what staff has brought before you is what staff and the consultants looked at, which is the comprehensive plan, the buildable area map, you know, the constraints, things like that. So if we make changes to the map, such as, you know, making this back to be some sort of 1 acre lot size, then we would, I guess, be going against the comprehensive plan. So we'd be looking for a little bit of your guidance to be able to do that.
And the argument for that is, in my opinion, is that Winiger property, was, approved by default during COVID, because it was considered approved if we didn't hear it within 3 months, and we didn't have any meetings, and all that density went in there. And the question is, my question is, and I've been raising it since I've joined this commission, how much density is too much density? I mean, our population is declining, our student enrollment is declining, you know, what are we doing around here? We built, by my estimation, more than 2 times the housing we predicted we needed by 2030. So what are we doing? You know, I'd like to, in my opinion, I'd like to wait and preserve the land until we know how this all shakes out. We can rezone it later, but if we say 0.2 from the get-go, then those people from Chicago are coming down, those people from Texas are coming in, you know, if we don't say, you know, Randy and Tammy, we'd like you to do something, bring us a PUD, you know, on that, for that very property, well, you're gonna have Chicago down here breathing down our neck. I'm sorry for speaking so frankly. You know, I'm like that, you know. Sorry.
It's the first time I've ever heard you say I'm sorry for speaking frankly.
But, you know, we estimated our community needed 5,200 units by the year 2030, and we've got over 12,000 in the works, at least. So I don't know when that bubble's gonna burst, but I'd like to preserve some opportunities for thoughtful building.
I think the map shows though, with Clear Creek Estates to the north, and not even putting Baywood, because Baywood's fairly, I mean, it's a 10-year-old subdivision, right? If you look at Clear Creek Estates to the north, Eagle View to the north and to the west, you got Bachelor Elementary, and then you got the subdivision to the west of it, is at the Highlands, I can't remember what it's called. I mean, it's a place, now maybe 1 out of every 2 of those houses is empty. And I don't know. I don't think they are. I think it's a pretty thriving neighborhood, and it's been popular ever since I've been in Bloomington. So I think that this is a residential destination, and since then we've added library, we've added park, we've added Lighthouse Christian Academy.
And about 300 more units that haven't gone online yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are discussions I can't speak to because I'm not intelligent enough to do it. So my point is, where would all these people have gone had we not done and developed this where we did?
Right. But we do have, let's recognize that in the very short period of time, recent history, we have approved about 300 other units in that very vicinity. So, you know, that I'd like us to be aware of what has been approved, what is under shovel, what is not yet completed, and what may be laying fallow to rear up like a phantom as soon as we built a 10-story something or other, you know? So I'd like us to know what's going on where, and whether or not we're exceeding the need. And if so, is that really indeed the highest and best use of the land? But we're getting off track here, but that's how I think about it.
Well,
you know?
I think those are good discussions. I really do. I mean, because we have these one-on-one, and we don't have the ability, because on our administration sessions, we don't have these conversations, right? We're at the ordinance review. So I think this is the place to do it, even though we don't do any favors for staff on getting ahead of things.
Staff isn't.
It's gotta happen. It's gotta happen somewhere.
I'd like to know what the heck those darn consultants are saying about this.
Well, they did. They told us 0.21.
But do they know us? I mean, have they been? I understand they haven't even really been here and walked down our streets. That's what,
I can't talk intelligently about that either.
That's what I've heard from people like, you know, the Sturbaum family and other families that they've asked, the consultants, have you been to Bloomington, and have you walked around? Have you, you know, and they've been here, but they haven't really, they're not from here. you know, they're just not from here, so.
So we are working from the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
With the consultant, so if there's a need to edit the comprehensive plan or to relook at this, I think part of the discussion is that when we take forward the draft zoning map, we would point out these areas are not, you know, matching with the comprehensive plan, but we're pointing those out, where we can do an addendum to the comprehensive plan, so it's not like, you know, it's not coming from nowhere, we do have
Right, I
adopted
know.
plans.
I know.
Right, I don't think we, at this juncture, want to go backwards and amend the comprehensive plan. I think that's just a lot of, that's very time consuming, and I think, you know, I think if we look at this whole area as, you know, in one piece, rather than individual properties, I think we'll do better and achieve more, but,
Can you give me a little bit more information on that, Julie? Do you mean not to do it in a table and just to like?
it's an area. I mean, I kind of looked at that table and then looked at the map and went, oh, it's this whole area. I mean, it really, you know, to me, it's this whole area. What do we want to see here? What do we think is appropriate here? And, you know, I just feel like, a 0.21 is too dense in this area, especially as you go even further south. But given that road's constraints that already exist, and the flood zones, especially as you go further south, that there are limitations here that we need to be aware of, and they're all, this whole green area is currently RE1, right?
Yes.
So to me, the question is there anything that would tell me that this shouldn't be RE1? Is there anything that tells me that this should be actually more dense? And I don't see anything that says to me, oh, let's make this area, this whole U-shaped area, a higher density than it is now.
Okay.
And that's me, because I understand the traffic, the flooding, the karst, all of these, yeah, and plus that big honking power line, right? Isn't this where that big,
Yeah.
yeah, that was another issue that came up. You know, who wants to live underneath a high density power line, a high voltage power line? So it just seems to me like I would want to see developers come to us with, you know, thoughtful ideas, and we can consider it for rezoning. I don't know that us making it a more dense zone says to them, oh, here's your green light, go ahead, in a way that they wouldn't already do. They already have come to us with other plans and other ideas for rezones. So it doesn't prevent somebody from coming in with something thoughtful and another way of looking at how the property could be utilized. And the best and highest use isn't what makes the developer the most money, it's what fits here with the landscape, with the environment, with the existing roadway that we can't expand. You know, that to me is what we need to think about. And so I'm not of a mind that the comprehensive plan works here for that reason. And the neighbors have been very clear about that, because south of this U is very low density. And so I think there's a transition that we need to have.
Well, 0.21 to 1 is a pretty steep transition. That's not really a transition, right? I guess I'm thinking, I think we should have a zoning classification that's somewhere between 0.34 and 1.
And we do, don't we?
No, that's what I keep saying, we don't.
We don't have one drafted right now. We could
Okay.
create another zone. We don't have a half acre or 0.75 acre lot
Uh-huh,
size.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that, I,
that's-
if it was like 0.75, maybe that way I'd be more comfortable with that here, I don't
Okay.
know. But,
Okay.
but in this case, when we have, I think it's really helpful to have the addresses in a particular area, to look at those addresses all at once, rather than looking at each individual one.
Right.
Because it really is an area mini regional issue. Relating to the environment and transitioning and all of that.
So I think that these other lots are well over 1 acre. I think these two would like to be ag 2.5. It's a little bit of a break in the comprehensive plan. This is, yeah, like Julie mentioned, kind of a dividing line that's always been existing from our 1997 maps.
Because of the sewer and trail.
Sewer, and also I think the city had planning and zoning jurisdiction over this area at some point. So, and then these lots over here are definitely under the 1 acre existing. So I don't know if there's, a similar sentiment that we shouldn't change the lot size for these lots. They're pre-existing as like a smaller lot size.
We
So
should change them to a larger lot size. Those aren't gonna last that long, I don't think.
these ones,
Okay, if I'm right.
That's.
So those are business,
Which ones?
the smallest ones are Stella's Place,
I
which was
see.
Bob at the meeting.
Yeah,
And the post office, which is the tiny one that's been there since 1870.
okay.
And then the one to the north of it,
Boy, wouldn't it be nice
probably
if,
one of the oldest businesses in the community.
This is
And
the
then
old
the
Clear
one to
Creek.
the north of it.
Yeah, that's all Clear Creek.
so it
Right,
would be
that's
nice
Clear
if
Creek.
that,
Yeah.
that community like you're trying to develop, if it could be developed with vision rather than in a responsive way. Cause that's what we're getting, is we're just having it happen without any direction. I mean, except for what, like piece by piece, and also, big developers coming in and.
so what can staff, yeah, this is an ordinance review committee, so typically we don't take a lot of public comment. We've had some CDO listening sessions. We wanna make sure that people have fair access to speaking to everybody, so I do wanna put that out there, but how do you want staff to put this forward in a way that we could start having these discussions? Because obviously they're complex and they're difficult, and maybe not everyone agrees. And so we need some guidance from you all to how we need to move forward, whether that's, we can show better maps, showing them all at once, we can, instead of the table, we can show like arrows for upzoning or downzoning requests. We can take this to the plan commission if that's a better venue for any of these.
In my dream of dreams, the way it would happen is what I've been saying for a long time, and it does involve reviewing the comprehensive plan and possibly changing it. And that would be this area is Clear Creek. It has historical significance, and we are going to preserve and promote. We're going to envision, preserve, and promote a way of life that is community-based for this segment of our county. But we have some re-envisioning to do of what's already taken place, and try to promote even, some redevelopment, even though things are just now getting developed, because these things were approved, by right. And there's a lot of density there. I think that there should be a vision statement for this community that marries the old with the new and with the future. And that, that community then, would be translated into a grid that enables and helps secure that vision. That's what I would like, but maybe everybody thinks that's been done already. I don't know, but something's not right because of what's happening down there. We're in a response mode to a lot of, I guess it's the city's planning for, we're letting an opportunity slip between our fingers to make something really special out of that town, that section of town.
And I think if you're giving consideration to that section of town, you know, again, just coming back to consistency in the comprehensive plan, if this area is zoned similarly under the comprehensive plan as this area, making those distinctions of why those two properties are different and one should get a higher density and one should get a lower density, we'll have to be clear on that.
Yeah, and so the way that I would do that is say, you know, this is a focus community. This is the section on Rogers Street that has historical business significance that has enabled the community to come together for vital functions like, you know, restaurants, post office, you know, Estella's Place, you know, and that is the town center of a focused community. That is the town center, the business district of a focused community, and these other areas are residential. You know, I mean, and Smithville has that too. You have, you know, I don't know, am I making sense to you, Jackie?
I think, yeah, I think that, there's some, requests for zones, I think in this area was RC1. I can place that in the table for next time, or if we don't. I wanna make sure this feels effective for everyone here. If this isn't the venue to have these types of discussions, I can take it to the full plan commission. Or we can have these discussions and at least draft something to say the ORC is recommending these zones instead of, you know, this zone here. That would be something to work from.
What do you think, Bernie? You understand all this?
Well,
thing?
no, I don't understand any better than anybody else, but if we just look at Clear Creek in the community, if you show that map and you look on the west side of Rogers Street. And something happens to those buildings in however many years, what's the odds that somebody's gonna be able to put a new building up in the floodplain right there in the AE zone? So what's the odds that that's gonna happen? So now we've got a community that's in the floodplain, nobody can live there. So where are we gonna put them? We'll put 3 houses on that 5.75 acre parcel for the Clear Creek community. I mean,
Yeah,
that's just
makes
that's
sense.
just a quick off the cuff
Yeah,
answer, but I don't wanna just do it so quickly that I'm not considering everything, but. Again, I look at this area, and this is just me and probably too much of an engineer surveyor in this discussion. Not to pick winners and losers, but we've got the infrastructure in this area, however it came to pass. I mean, on this map, I'm looking at a church, I'm looking at a school, I'm looking at another school, I'm looking at a library, I'm looking at another school up to the north. So we've got the makings of a lot of public type uses that are gonna be beneficial to people living in this area, so they're not driving all over Hell's Half Acre to get to wherever they wanna go. So to me, I see this as a higher density than 1 unit per acre. I can't help it, but I do. And I see the demand is gonna put it there. People are gonna want that, and it's because the houses that we don't have in this area here are gonna wanna go out in the county further. And they're gonna be on septic, and they're gonna be on the roads out there, so where do we wanna focus our attention on?
I feel hopeless.
Well, you're not hopeless, you got, I mean,
feel
really,
hopeless about it.
but that's just my off the cuff, and I can be corrected by 1,000 people.
I wish that floodplain could be mitigated.
But again, you've got the elevation difference to where the floodplain is. It may be close on a 2-dimensional map, but in a 3-dimensional map, it might as well be a mile away. Again, that's just my opinion, but
So I'd like to, I know the time is a little bit past 5:30. I'd like to go ahead and maybe summarize and wrap up for next time.
Here,
Um,
Jackie.
Just want to respect everybody's time. So, I'm hearing that if we do a table like this, maybe it would be helpful if we take some of your discussions today and maybe add a column to say ORC's potential request or something like that, and we could add a column with some of the zones that we talked about today. And then we could maybe take this further to an administrative meeting if need be, or you guys can kind of go through, maybe you all agree on some of them that we didn't get to.
Besides-
I think this is very useful, Jackie. I really do. You might not feel like we achieved anything, but I feel like this has been very useful. And I think if you can continue to bring us areas to look at, regions, whatever, just, putting this kind of, because we may look at what was done with the comp plan and knowing what we know about roads or flooding or what the city's doing or whatever it might be, we might want to make some changes based on what the public's saying to us. So, and I think if we can do it area by area, I think that would be really useful.
And this area, to me, extends beyond Rogers Street over to Orchard Lane and over to 37 and all the way up to Maze and back around, including Eagle Terrace or whatever. So what you said about those businesses, although it makes me weep to think that those legacy businesses may be underwater, literally.
But they've survived since 1870.
That's right, but maybe we could focus a relocation of those businesses along the.
Having zones that
Yeah,
could accommodate them to move. I think
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
Or over to the, to Walnut Street or, something, but this is.
Complex issue, yes.
So quick question, and Julie, I'm interested in your thought on this for sure. What about looking at an intermediate zone between 0.34 and 1.0? If you look at that average, it's a 0.67 acre zone.
Mhm.
Is that something that's worth staff's time to look at seeing what it would take to add that zone? Or
Yeah,
are you?
I agree. I think a subdivision, a suburban, a suburban zone could be, a 0.5, a 0.75 and a 1. Because I would imagine the design issues are pretty similar, for that, but, it would be interesting to have that considered, because I personally, I don't see a lot of use for 0.21 in most of the county, because we are the county, we're not the city. And so I would like to see something else, and I don't know if that would be super difficult for the consultants to work through. I don't want it to be difficult. I want it to be, added to something that's already there, where you already have, for example, suburban design structures where you can just add.
I think the iterations between 0.14 to 0.21, that's a percentage wise, that's a pretty big jump.
Right.
0.21 to 0.34. So if you look at that, there's a pretty good transition from 0.14 to 0.21 to 0.34. I'm just saying add something between 0.34 and 0.1, not rejiggering the zones we've got in place, but looking at the percentages between those and saying, okay, now we've got 0.34. If we go to a 0.67, and then we've got a 0.1, or pardon me, a 1.0. And if that would have any merit, that was my initial question. And am I understanding?
And we can look at this because we know that development costs X. We don't know how long development will cost, what it costs. We don't know, what you can do on 0.75 or 0.7 or whatever it might be. But, it's important to have something in between there. I don't know what that is, and maybe the consultants can offer guidance on that based on what we have.
Okay. All right, well, I think we have some homework to do before the next one. So. All right, well, thank you, everyone.
Thanks for the great discussion, everyone. I
That was a
appreciate
good
you.
discussion. Yeah.
I'm sorry I was late.
No, that's
I
okay.
thought it was Tuesday.
Oh.